love the way you play the guitar, brother. I just love the way you play.
I love that tune, John Lewis
Man,
tunes. I've been
yeah,
really trying to, get into them lately. There's another. I've been learning some of these kind of modern classical pieces
right.
that I've been playing with Tessa. One called Lotus Land, which is in
Yeah.
E flat minor. And I'm, practicing one day and I'm like, duh. And then I'm like, oh my God, it's like a whole different instrument. Amazing how, like, it took me 7 months to figure out, oh, wow, that really. And it's all like kind of low E flats in the bass, and then
Right.
the chords change,
Yeah.
stuff like that. Really cool, cool piece written by Cyril Scott. So
Well,
it's been a lot of fun to be challenged that way.
sure, absolutely. Well, you play the melody like nobody else. I mean, you
Thank
really,
God for that,
yeah, you really
huh?
no. I mean, you play the melody like nobody else. I mean, you really feel the lyric of the tune and all of that when you play, and it's just
It's just the situations I've been put in,
yeah,
musically, especially, I mean, what comes to mind when you say playing melody is Les Paul.
yeah,
And I just remember, like, the first probably 6 months or so trying to just match when he would give me the bridge of a song like I'm Confessing That I Love You. And
right.
his tone and the way he presented the melody was always just spectacular. And the first few weeks, I'd go home like almost in tears saying, oh my God, I got to get a better sound. And,
You know,
it's
it's really
funny.
weird. It's weird that the guitar is so known, but I really don't think people understand what a great guitar player he was.
Listen, there were people who used to come to the Iridium and say, I didn't know you were a man. I didn't know you actually existed. I thought you were just a name on a guitar.
uh, I mean, he was obviously he was a phenomenal guitar player, and people don't really. I mean, I don't think people. You don't hear about people talking about him as one of the greats, if you will. I mean, like people talk about Joe Pass, they talk about Barney, they talk about Herb, they talk about Kenny, all that. But when Les's name comes up, it's the
It's
guitar, and
different. It's
and he can stand toe to toe with those guys, as far as I'm concerned.
and I mean, that guy could play anything.
Yeah,
And I think, people don't realize that that's the reason, in my humble opinion,
right,
his technique on the guitar and his musical knowledge, even though he knew nothing about music or theory,
right,
um, it was so good that other people had the recording technology at the time. He wasn't
right,
the only one who was fooling around with sound on sound,
right.
but what he was able to do with it because
Ah,
of his ability on the guitar to
right.
be able to go like, and then
Yeah,
and then and then he would do that like all in harmony. It's like, oh my God, what is that? But also we forget not the engineering, but the producer in
right.
him.
Yeah.
Because when you did sound on sound, if you made
Hmm.
a mistake, back to square one, back to track one. It
Yeah.
wasn't like it is now, or even it
Nope.
was with tape, where you get to do it again, take
Right.
another shot at it. If he
Yeah.
didn't get it right, he had to go back to the first track playing the rhythm guitar or
Uh,
whatever the first track
yep.
was.
Yeah. And
So now the arrangements that he had for these tunes, like How High the Moon, Lover, I mean, Via con Dios, and everything else of his 38 million sellers that he had.
right.
I
Yeah.
mean, he had that all in his head before he even started playing.
And
Think about that for a second, Bob. He
no,
didn't write it out. He was like, with a click track and playing the rhythm with that whole arrangement in his head of How High the Moon.
when I watch him play and watch what he did, and I think about the times and what he had to do to make that happen, and how far advanced he was, it's mind-boggling to me. And
Mm.
that's why I brought up his name, because I want people to know that he's not just a good name on a guitar. I mean, he was a phenomenal guitarist and a hell of a musician. I mean, he played music, he made music happen. And the other thing he did, I mean, we're getting off the subject, but on the subject, if you will, is that the way I read it is Bing Crosby actually hired him to develop, really be to make. Bing's thing was he was a crooner, and back in those days, before he got together with Les to help him with the microphone, the whole microphone technology to sing live, is that you had to be Ethel Merman to get heard in the back wall. You couldn't croon. And Bing's whole thing was to be able to sing to somebody 4 or 5 feet away. In other words, instead of saying "I love you," that kind of thing, you can't do that. You
Right.
got to say "I love you," that close
Right.
up. But to do that intimately in a big hall was what he got Les's technologies, if you will, helped him to do that, and that's where I think Ampex and all that came from. So it's
Well, their first song was "It's Been a Long, Long Time."
Mm-hmm.
Right? And the story that Les used to tell was he shows up and they meet, and Bing hands him the music and says, "This is what I want to record." And Les said, "Well, I don't read music." And Bing said, "I don't read music either." So the like lighting guy or something, played a little piano, and he taught them the song. And then they recorded that iconic version. And he used to say he used to go and watch the record go around so he could see his name, because it said Bing Crosby and then in little
Yeah.
letters with the Les Paul Trio. That was his first kind of, introduction to success.
You know what? It's really one of the things that I love talking to you for this reason. What I know about Les Paul, I read from Google. Okay, what you know from Les Paul, because you knew Les.
Listen, well, there was one night we were sitting and having dinner together, which we used to mostly every week. We'd do the sound check and little
Sure.
rehearsal, and then we would have dinner and then do the show. And I'm sitting with him in the back one night, and kind of quiet. You hear the dishes going and the little clangs, and all of a sudden he's like, "Yeah, remember when I first heard Charlie Christian?" It's like I spit out my food. I'm like, "Hello?" I mean, I didn't spit out my food, but I was like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, come on." It was just a little, down. He was in
Yeah.
Oklahoma, and he
Yeah.
happened to go see Charlie Christian. It was as
Yeah.
simple as that. And boy, that guy could play, and all down strokes and all the down picking, because he was really into picks and picking.
Right.
He'd sit there and stare at my patty. Oh wow, such good technique. He used to tell me, "You have perfect technique. You can do any. Most guys can just do one thing, but you could do a lot." I'm like, "Les, stop. It's not that good."
Plectrum banjo. Tell him, say Les, you
Yeah,
need to learn it.
well, it was from Django.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It was from
Yeah.
Django, and that's where that guy had a tremolo.
Yeah.
And you listen to those early recordings, and he would come in and just, it would be perfect. I can't even, especially now with my whole arm situation, but
Yeah.
that tremolo that he did on those early recordings, or especially Appel Direct, if
Right.
you give that a listen,
Yeah.
it's on YouTube too. He does this tremolo in there where he's just like, it sounds like nothing you've ever heard on the guitar. It's
Yeah.
absolutely perfect.
Oh man, I love it. Well,
Hmm.
listen, thanks for this, Frank.
All
I,
right, no,
I
thank
appreciate
you.
it. We'll talk some more, and I am going to take you up on coming up there. I've got there's a whole lot of people that a lot of good reasons to get up to New York, and obviously
Well,
this is a
you
great one.
should bring a little camera, cover the night, do some
Well,
interviews.
I will absolutely do that, and we'll make it happen. So
That
I
would be
gotta thank you.
wonderful.
So
Thanks.
so Bob Baker from Jazz Guitar Today here with Frank Vignola, and I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, man. I love you.
Likewise.
I love you,
Love you
brother.
too, and
Catch you.
thanks for asking me and keeping me in the loop here. I
Oh,
appreciate
absolutely,
that.
man. You're my guy. See you,
All
brother.
right. Thank
Bye
you.
bye.
See you.
Bye bye.